Welcome to the Pushing Beauty podcast. This is Michelle Diavella, and these are words from my soul. Welcome. It's been quite a while, I feel like, since I've recorded a podcast episode. I am currently in a new apartment. I moved into a new little bungalow, actually a couple of blocks from where I used to live. And so it might be a little bit more echoey than I usually have quality-wise, but I decided that I wanted to talk a little bit about accepting and embracing your healing process. And what that really means is letting it be okay when things don't feel that good. So I've been noticing that I'll have these kinds of themes that come in with clients. I'll have several clients in a row who will be kind of saying the same thing in different ways. And so one of the things that's been coming in lately is making things a really big problem when you don't feel good, making it a huge ordeal. And sometimes it's not a huge ordeal, but for some of us, it can be, where it feels sort of like the end of the world, or we sort of misinterpret sort of bad days or certain feelings that come up that we label as bad, as meaning that there's something wrong, or we're not actually healing, or we're not moving forward. And this is something that I learned on my own through my own healing process. After the breakup that I speak about quite often, I fell into a really deep depression. It was about 1.5 years ago now. And I really suffered like majorly for many months. For many months was just kind of in a really bad place. And then while I was in my depression, I remember kind of having a little bit of a feeling of like things were getting better. It was almost like I was in this dark room and a crack of light came in. And I was like so happy for that. You know, when you're feeling that low and that empty, seeing a little sliver of light means everything. And it was, hope that things were getting better. And the next day, I remember waking up just feeling horrible again. And I was so like devastated, because it felt like this glimpse of change or of healing was kind of taken away from me again. And I went to, I think, the laundromat that day, and I was reading Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron, which I highly recommend. It's a really great book, and was just kind of working on being present with my feelings and watching the dryer, kind of, or I guess the washer, just kind of switching the clothes around. And I just felt totally empty and also like, I guess in pain in some way. So I know that sounds sort of like a contradiction, but that's sort of the experience of it. And so I went home, and I remember just crying a lot. And suddenly that day, something shifted for me, where I recognized that there was a part of me that believed that I needed something else. Like I needed a certain feeling to be okay. I needed, maybe somebody to come in or something to happen to change things. And I just started to recognize that it's up to me, everything is up to me. And there are times where we can't necessarily change our feelings, but I started to recognize that when I didn't feel a way I wanted to feel, I was fighting it so much that it was creating so much more pain and suffering, instead of just melting into the feelings and the discomfort of those feelings and being there for myself, supporting myself through those feelings. So that was sort of the beginning for me. I think I would describe it as like mothering myself, just sort of like laying in bed and holding myself while I was crying and telling myself it was okay that I felt the way that I felt. and just not making a problem out of it anymore, not pushing the feelings away, not trying to make them different, not wishing them away, not wishing I felt differently, just really surrendering to it and feeling it. And once I did that, I mean, I really don't think in the past year I've had an instance of creating my own suffering by like pushing away my pain. It's not to say I haven't experienced pain in the past year, of course, like I definitely have. But because something shifted in me, my relationship to it is just very different. So one of the things that I talk about in my book, and I probably have talked about it on my blog and maybe even here on the podcast, is this notion that healing isn't linear. And I think we have this idea that, things need to keep getting better and better and better. But when you actually kind of step out and take a look at the big picture, things are changing and they're improving and you're becoming new. But that process isn't an easy process. It isn't a straight line up. It's an up and down. And that's really a reflection of the life process itself. If you think about birth, creating a new human, that is not a comfortable process. It's not one that's free of pain. And we kind of have this idea, we don't want to experience much pain, but there's so much for us to learn about ourselves through it. So, just the other day, my sister was struggling with some really major anxiety, and what she started to do was like ask herself, is this forever? Is this going to last forever? This feels horrible. Yesterday I felt good. Today I feel bad. And there's all this kind of judgment and fear going on around it being forever. And I was just encouraging her to just kind of stop that and to feel into what the anxiety was actually pointing to. And for her, she just moved in with a boyfriend. She was just kind of leaving home. She's in this big transition. And so there was some kind of deeper, larger existential stuff going on about, leaving home and the feeling of just life moving on and the fact that we're all going to die someday. It really goes that deep a lot of the times, and we're not really willing to look at it. So when she did, and she, let herself cry a lot, and she did some breath work and was, purging a lot of the pain and grief and sadness and all of that stuff. And she started to connect to what was actually underneath it. So all of these experiences are opportunities for us to learn about ourselves, to understand ourselves better, to understand what's actually happening. We're not static creatures. We're not meant to be static. And so just like we're growing externally, we also have an opportunity to be growing internally. So just for most of us, our culture is really not geared towards connecting to our emotions, learning about our emotions, understanding what the deeper meaning is pointing to, and kind of tying that into our spiritual path. So it's really up to us to begin to do some of this difficult work of digging deeper and learning about ourselves. So, I think that one of the biggest lessons in my life has been recognizing that it's okay for me to feel shitty sometimes. And in those times, I'm often moving through some stuff, going through some growing pains. So actually you can begin to feel that there's beauty, there's beauty in the painful process of transformation. So on the other side of it, you're going to love who you are so much more. If you're somebody who's committed to whatever work you do, healing work you do, to learn more about yourself, to release, the energy and old stories that are keeping you small. If you're showing up and doing that work, then you can kind of surrender to whatever it is that's showing up for you, and know that you're not going to be stuck in it forever because you're doing the work to show up in it. We do need to feel the pain sometimes. We do need to go deep into it and let it teach us something. When we're terrified of it, we can't do that. When we're too busy pushing it away and wishing it away, we're missing the opportunity. And the truth is that it doesn't go anywhere. You know, if you try to push your pain away, you try to numb it out, it's not going anywhere. It's staying there. It's going to, keep you small. It's going to drive you. So I hope this came out pretty clear. It's just like one of the things that have been coming in a lot for me, where I feel like, we all learn things in our lives. And this is a really big lesson that I learned in my life around just letting pain be a gift and, taking off some of these expectations that we have for everything to feel good all the time. Obviously, I teach the desire map work, so I'm a big proponent on creating a life that feels good. But I'm also very clear that you can't have a life that's completely free of pain. Okay, I think I'll stop there. Any questions that you have about this topic in particular, I'm happy to answer them through email. You can email me at hello@pushingbeauty.com. As always, I'm super grateful to have you here with me, and I will see you next time.